How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Swim. This is from 2021, and it was put out by the Asylum, who you guys know for things like Sharknado. They do a lot of low budget, a lot of mockbusters, and a lot of shark movies. This was also originally released on Tubi. Tubi, the streaming service. They put out another shark movie on DVD that I covered last year, so good to see them getting into the shark movie game. This movie is directed by Jared Cohn, and was actually written by Anthony C. Ferrante. This movie is written by the director of Sharknado. That's pretty cool. Don't get your hopes up, but that's still pretty cool. This movie stars Joey Lawrence, Jennifer Field, and Andy Lauer, and is a mockbuster of Crawl. I don't know if you remember Crawl. Definitely a good movie, definitely worth seeing. You had a house that was getting flooded, and the woman had to go up each story while being chased by a crocodile. Or an alligator, I don't know the difference. But crocodiles crawl, so you do a mockbuster with a shark, sharks swim. See? Not the Asylum's most egregious mockbuster. I mean, they're putting out a movie called Attack on Titan, but it definitely is a mockbuster. Overall, this movie's okay. It clearly had issues, and you can tell there were some scenes where they were limited by their time and budget and just had to move on. So there is some budgetary issues, some stuff that didn't look great, some acting that didn't quite work, and some special effects that were a little shaky. And for whatever reason, as with a lot of low-budget movies, just several cases of, that's not really how the world works. But whatever, this movie falls into that strangely watchable category where it wasn't great, but I put it on, had a good enough time, was able to watch it in a single sitting. Don't expect much, but if you know low-budget shark movies, this is on par. And hey, crawling up through the house, interesting idea. Just, it's not an Asylum classic or anything, but, you know, especially if you're watching it for free on Tubi, and you're a shark geek, it falls into the, might as well category. Let's talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what this movie's about. We actually open up with the father, and turns out he is quite a ways away from his family. And you get a bit of forced expository dialogue when he's telling the audience, but in the context of the movie, the cab driver, oh, my family is going to the beach house we rent out every year, but my plane, the rain, it's delayed. I'm gonna have to drive. Okay, so the thing with this is, for a long time, the dad doesn't really know how much danger his family's in. Like, you don't really have that inherent tension because he thinks it's just a storm. But also, for the audience, you know, what's the dad going to do that, like, say his son couldn't do? You know, it's not like he's arriving with the shark repellent bat spray. If he gets to his family, he's just another guy in danger. So, yeah, I think this whole thing was really just because they couldn't afford this actor as much as the other ones. But he's got to get to his family and maybe save them from the sharks or something. Anyway, we get after that some setup about the house. The guy who's renting it out is getting yelled at by a government inspector. Apparently it's pretty bad and could fall down easily if there was a storm with a shark in it. You know, some setup. And then we get another case of that's not how the world works, when the guy will chase a package into the ocean because apparently the delivery boy made a delivery to this house and put the box underneath the house. I don't know why you would do this, but the guy's on the phone in the area underneath the house with all the little rafters, and he's on the beach, and the delivery boy apparently just chucked the package under there. The waves will take the package into the ocean. This is why you don't just chuck the packages on the beach, I'm just saying. But when the guy goes into the ocean, the shark will eat him, and this will establish there's a shark there, he's a man-eater, and now they're not going to be able to call their landlord. So we get that set up. And then we get the family getting to the house, and the family is a grandpa, the mom, the son, who's a good swimmer, and he is going to meet his summer girlfriend here. And yeah, again, forced expository dialogue. The girlfriend's dad pulls up, and he's talking to them in the car. You stay away from so-and-so. Okay, we get it. But the scene goes on, and it's like, that's my daughter, and I'm your next-door neighbor. We get it. But anyway, he has his summer girlfriend, and then there's the daughter who has just graduated college. She's going to be a doctor just like the grandpa was, and the mom's worried that she won't go on another one of these beach vacations. Because when you graduate college, you apparently can't go on a beach vacation with your family. Okay, maybe she'll have her own life and not have time for this, but for real, she can still come. I don't know. But anyway, the storm will flood, things will get serious, the water will rise from the basement to the attic, and of course, our good friend the shark is going to get into the basement and chase the characters up through the different floors. The basement. On a house with risers. You know, I'm not the biggest architect nerd, but when the house is too close to the beach, they typically put it on big stilts so that when the water comes in, the house doesn't get wet. Now, basements are below the ground. If you've raised the house up on little legs, you're not going to get a basement because the house has no part that's below ground. And there's several establishing shots showing the house has no basement, but that's where the movie starts, so don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just basement. So the movie starts in this non-existent basement. Shark chases them up through the roof. They have to fight. They have to survive. The dad has to get there. It's fine. I think the biggest deal is the tension. You know, in Crawl, it was just her, and she was alone. That's good tension. Here you have a whole group running around, not really knowing what to do, not really adding much to the story, and not getting killed. Like, you think they have more people so that we can have more cannon fodder, but no, this movie has a strangely low body count, so they're just kind of running around, and they don't really have a sense of direction. In Crawl, you knew what you were doing, you knew where you were going, there was purpose. Here, you get a lot of first draft ideas, like when they're on the first story, and they have to get to the stairs, the character that's already on the stairs has a plan to just jump in the water and hit the shark with an umbrella so everyone else can run up the stairs. That is a first draft idea. You really needed to come up with something better. But no, I'm just going to hit the shark with the umbrella. And so much of that first story section is just hit the shark with something off camera. It gets repetitive and doesn't look great. But the biggest example of first draft problems, when the kids are in the basement and they have to figure out a way to get the shark occupied so the kids can get out of the basement, they come up with the stupidest plan. The grandpa, who has trouble getting upstairs and needs oxygen, is going to take his regular fishing pole, not a special one with piano wire like Jaws, but just a regular fishing pole, and he's going to hook the shark, this frail guy who can't get upstairs easy, and he's going to pull the shark in so his grandkids can run through. that is a ridiculous plan, but that's what they went with. They couldn't think of something better. Okay, cool. That's what we're doing then. The characters are pretty flat, to be honest. There is some bad acting, but nothing too terribly egregious. But it's like, the son, it's like, okay, he's a young high school student. He wants to be a swimmer, and that's like most of his personality. You're going to be the world's best swimmer. Maybe he could be the next Michael Phelps, but it probably is just a high school hobby. Whatever. So a lot of the characters are flat. Oh, you're a doctor, stuff like that. And then we get like some weird and unrealistic ones, the handyman that comes that's clearly just cannon fodder. The handyman comes to fix a leak during a really bad storm, and rather than going, "Ma'am, this house is screwed, I'm getting out of here," he still tries to fix that leak for a long time during this storm. I'm like, dude, no one would really do that. Get out of there. The house is gonna all fall down. It doesn't matter if there's a leaky pipe. But he's gonna try to fix that leak. The girlfriend gets bitten by a shark, but then just kind of okay after about 30 minutes. The worst character, though, I didn't like Grandpa in this movie. Grandpa in this movie, okay, he's realistic. I've known several old men like this. But he'll just kind of walk around shouting stuff that we already know. And it's like a character will say one thing, "There's a shark over there." And then Grandpa will go, "There's a shark over there!" And just repeat stuff other characters have said, but louder. And he'll just putter around narrating what's happening or what he's doing. And he's like, "I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that." And it's like, shut up, Grandpa. Please be quiet. So that was probably the worst of the characters there. Special effects. We've gotten to the point in CG that things are decent. The shark looks okay. He's a little weird and shimmery sometimes, but he's okay. And the water generally looks okay. They have to Photoshop a big tidal wave against stock footage of beach houses, and it looks fine. One thing I did notice with the CGI is everyone complains about waist-high water because it's easier to film when you don't go too far into the water. But if a shark was attacking someone in waist-high water, he'd be scooting along the bottom of the sand, and it'd be really weird, and you'd see him poking out from the top. So this movie has a solution for that, and that is to shoot in waist-high water, but then make a second shot underneath the water where we see the character's feet dangling up in the air, and then, it looks like they're in waist-high water, but they're not. They're actually 15 feet of water. Would you believe that? No, not really, but at least you're trying, The biggest thing with special effects would have to be the first story of the house. You get 4 places: the basement, which is one room, the second story, which is just the bedroom, and the third story, or the attic, which is just a one-room attic. All those are one room, and it's probably the same set, just redressed to look like 3 different rooms, and those they were actually able to flood. They look good, pretty decent, although it is strange when we get to the second story, they're just trapped in the bedroom for some reason. The problem is that first floor. You have to go through the first floor, and that's a real set. More than one room, and it's a real house, and whoever they rented the house from would get mad if they flooded it, so the asylum couldn't do that. So the first floor is the room with the CGI water, and they do a good enough job of keeping the camera tilted up so you can't see the water, and they do add in a water shimmer effect for the lighting on the characters' faces. And it's not bad, but you can definitely tell the difference between CGI and real water. it's okay, but this is the CGI water section, and it shows. And also, when you're in the first floor of this house, it's just a bright sunny day outside. They really should have color graded to make it look stormy, because it's like, oh, the storm's coming, the water's risen, and now it's half flooded the first floor of this house. Don't pay attention to how bright and sunny and happy these shots are, because it feels like the storm stopped for a minute even though it's not supposed to. And I don't want to gripe forever. There is a lot of little things like that. They break a car window with a ladder, and the car window clearly breaks before the ladder hits it, but the asylum can only afford one car window, so we're gonna just have to leave that in the movie. The old man, whenever he walks down to the basement, will insist on using the handrail, and the team that built the set, for whatever reason, did not screw in the middle of the handrail, and it's all wobbling up and down, and it's quite comedic, but whatever, the show's gotta go on. Just shoot it and keep going. There's other little things like bad ADR for whatever reason. When the handyman's in the basement, they give him a line and you can clearly see the lips aren't moving, and the audio quality drops dramatically, and I legitimately think they recorded him over a phone call for this one line that didn't really need to be in there. So yeah, there is stuff like that. So I'm not going to list everything, but it is a fun game of count the bad horror movie flaws. And I do think that part of it, though, is kind of endearing. You know, I'm trying to make horror films myself. That's what I would really like to do. And having worked a little bit on them, I can definitely see, like, you know, the process behind these things, and the idea of, well, we can't do any better, but we do have to get the whole movie in the can. And I think that if you do want to be makers of horror movies, it is important to watch the good stuff. You definitely need to watch Jaws. But if you want to make horror movies, you also need to watch things like Swim. Because odds are you're not going to just go out and make Jaws. You'll probably make something like this. And you need to see how they worked, how they got around their budget, the mistakes that they made. You really need to analyze things like this, because there's a ton to learn in what they were able to succeed with and what they weren't able to. And as a fan of making movies, there was a lot of really interesting stuff in how they found solutions to their problems in here. So I did like it for that. It's not quite a so bad it's good movie. It did have some fun, cheesy parts. I do wish it took itself a little less seriously, like Sharknado. I do wish it was a little funnier and had more levity, and they just let themselves be goofballs. But for what it is, it's on par with the low-budget shark movies. It's fine. Can't really dig into it too hard. If you've never seen a movie this low budget before, it might surprise you. But if you've seen a bunch of these shark movies, you know what to expect. The going up the different floors, the actually flooded sets. There's some cool ideas in here. It's not an Asylum classic, but for a B-side, it's okay. It's totally watchable. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Sharks playlist. You guys can see my reviews of other Asylum shark movies in there, like the Sharknado series. So if you guys want to see me talk about more shark movies, you can find them here. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Shark playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.